Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world-changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, to create massive awakened impact for millions of souls around the planet, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman. And welcome everybody to another Spiritual Rockstar Podcast show. I'm so grateful to be with you, and we've got a really cool guest. He is someone who's a very, I feel very unique. You know, I haven't met anybody quite like Jeniji before. I really haven't. He's a different quantity. He points to, you know, ancient wisdom and things like that, but it's not so boring. Trust me, he's a fun guy. All right. He's going to help you to have fun in this show. He talks about, you know, let's go to camp together and stuff like that in a good way, you know, not in a weird way. All right. But, you know, he's a fun guy. And no, seriously, he's got some really powerful truths to help you wake up. And I really have to caution you. When you come into the zone with Jeniji, you have to stay vigilant. You have to stay mindful in all seriousness, to stay present through the whole show, because what he points to will make you feel like, you know what, I just don't want to hear this right now. But I'm gone, like for some of you, right? And if you get that feeling, that means you need to listen all the way through, because there's resistance. He's going to be hitting up against your resistance. I'm warning you all today. He's going to hit up against your resistance, the mind's resistance, and he is a master at helping you to gently, beautifully, yet powerfully move through that, so that you can wake up. You can wake the hell up, as they say, right? And be liberated. So Jeniji is so great. I'm so grateful to have you here.
Awesome. Thank you. I want to thank your team and everyone for allowing to make this happen. Yeah, let's do this. We got a few wake ups to happen today.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So I'm going to share about Jeniji briefly here. He's a founder of nSIGHTn. So it's all about the sight, right? Synergy and inner transformation and cognitive awareness specialist, advisor, author, speaker. Jeniji is a highly sought after advisor, providing unparalleled insights and solutions to his personal and professional clientele that transcend our current understanding of human cognitive reality creation process. So who knows what the hell's creating reality for us about, right? But we're going to get into it anyway with Jeniji today. So yeah, the kind of things we're getting into today probably lead people to a place of speechlessness, and they don't know what to think or say about anything anymore, right? So it's a pretty interesting thing. I'd love to get your backstory maybe to get started, because we just go right into the material. People might think, oh, he's just, you know, this spiritual teacher, guru, master, or whatever, or even maybe. But like, you've had a path of pain that where, you know, that kind of forces in a way almost, or points you at least into the direction of what you're sharing in the world today. So I'd love to hear your backstory of what brought you to sharing all the things we're going to get into today, and start tuning into some of those things right away. But I want to hear the backstory about what brought you into this work.
Of course. And my backstory really starts the day that I lost my mom. And what I mean by that, she passed away in 1982, but I lost her about 1965. And what I mean by that is the physical mom was here in both cases up until she passed in 82. But I'm the only one in the family of the children that remember the original mom, the mom that was a teenager when she had me, the mom that was so full of life and love and excitement, the mom that hadn't had all of the ideas and beliefs that have been placed onto her as an older woman or living in the world and everything that goes on. And so I met the original mom, and she met the original me. And then somewhere along the line, ideas and beliefs took the place of the original mom, where now she's afraid to go outside to get the mail without her face on. She wouldn't allow anyone to touch her, a man touch her, unless her legs were shaved. There are ideas and beliefs that she became under the influence of and swapped identities from the truth of who she is to now to become this mentally created version of her. And unfortunately, the tools that she needed to see past that wasn't in the identity that she created. It's in the original true self. So her desire to get out of depression, to get out of anxiety, to get out of the issues of identity and the insecurity and all of that wasn't built into the identity she built in the mind, but it was part of the functions of the truth that she is. But she didn't understand the difference between the two. And the day I lost her helped lead to the day that I lost me, because then I was being raised from then on by someone who saw ideas and beliefs as more real than the truth of who she is. So that's the backstory. And then I spent 45, 50 years of suffering and pain and suicide and depression and having a great relationship and a lost relationship. I had a daughter and then didn't see my daughter. All of that happened for the next 50 years. It took me that long. And I think everyone hearing this can relate to their own story of this, that I didn't realize that I wasn't being my true self because I was so young. When I lost me, I wouldn't have known who I was to begin with. And so all of the teachings out there, hey, remember who you are, let's get you back. And all of that isn't taken into consideration the human factor of how we're raised, because we're raised to create a mindset in many ways that's used against us, not for us. That's the mechanical us that we created. But the true us, man, alive, free, curious, loves life. But to believe that there's a different version is forcing us to go beyond the only identity that we've known. And that's that leap of faith. That's the spiritual journey. There has to be something more here than just what I think. And that's what started the journey. Thank you for asking. It's been something that I wish I could have taught my mom before we lost her, because she committed suicide 15, 18 years later. And we lost her again physically that time. And so why am I here? I just know that we found a solution to end that, to see that false identity, to see that false illusion, the pain, the anxiety, the suffering, the feeling, the loneliness, and see past all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's interesting. So were you aware of, okay, so like when I was a kid, like I know I was awake and aware. We always are anyway, but like I mean I was awake and aware that I was awake and aware to a degree. Like I was like, the world is strange. Why are people so strange? You know, like I was that kind of kid. And based on what you're saying, I don't know if it's true. It sounds like maybe you were a little bit like that as well. So did you have that experience as a kid? Like, life's a little weird the way people live. What's the deal with people? Yeah. Did you have that experience, or was it a little bit different than that? I'm just curious.
Well, I think we all kind of have.
Yeah.
Why is my family like this one? So family so much better, right?
Right.
And then there's probably people that looked at my family and wondered why theirs wasn't as good as ours. I mean, it's just that way that we look at things. And yeah, I mean, I think that's really what got me started. I really wondered, why is it that two people can go through the same event and come out differently? Why can I go to the same high school someone else went to, but they're succeeding, not me? Why were they born into a world? And it always came back that somehow I was the one broken, that there was something wrong with me. And that's the because. And that was just part of what we were taught. We were taught to create this identity that had, it's an it's like identity. And this is the craziest part about the I am that we create in the head. It's an it's like identity. It's not our actual truth of who we are, which is why we're trying to get love and connection from an it's like identity that doesn't have the ability to really experience those things. And we're trying to find solutions, but that identity in the head doesn't have solutions. Remember, the identity in the head's made of memory. That's it.
Right.
So it's a belief-based identity. And if I believe someone can make me mad, they will. If I don't believe they can, they won't. And so it's a belief-based identity. There's no function of it. There's no solution to the belief-based identity except to see beyond it. It's no more real than Santa.
Mhm.
And yet we take it as so much more real
Mhm.
because somebody ate the cookies. So there's compelling evidence that Santa must be real.
Mhm.
I'm feeling an emotion, so what I'm thinking must be true. But they're not understanding that what we think is a virtual world, and our body's here to take the virtual world and turn it into a physical experience. So if we're using our emotions as the evidence that we're thinking is right, well, the emotions were created by what we were thinking. So to use the emotion as the compelling evidence to prove I'm right, that's the illusion.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you must be out to get me because I feel paranoid. There must not be a solution. I feel depressed. There must be something about to happen. I feel anxiety. And we take the end result of what our body does within a thought as the evidence. And once we start seeing past that, a whole new world opens up. We get the it is world, not the it's like world. We get actual love instead of love because. We get solutions instead of promises. We get logic, wisdom, and rationality instead of beliefs. We get actual emotional control instead of wishful thinking and medications and diagnosis.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, the idea is who we are is, beyond all identity and memory, and we're always in the now, and we're the eternal and everything. So I honestly, I would lighten this stuff up because it gets so serious. But
Well, the thing is, we want to believe all of it, but here's the gift.
yeah.
If we only focus on from the moment I was born until the moment whatever happens, and I don't know when that's going to happen.
Mhm.
You think about this. I'm going to live for X number of years, no idea how it's going to happen, which means I'm going to survive. We're all going to survive everything
Yeah.
except once. But the mind wants to catastrophize that it all is that one.
Yeah.
It's all that way. But it's only in reality, it's just going to happen once. So the moment I can start focusing what is
Mhm.
on what is
Mhm.
and seeing what is as what is,
Mhm.
then I finally have an anchor in reality where my attention's on reality, as opposed to my attention being hooked on a thought. And I get lost in the thought stream and I might be gone for 30, 40 years
Right.
or an hour, whatever that might be. And
Mhm.
that's the key. We were taught to create a thought stream that's just playing up there all the time. I think, I feel, I want, I need, just constantly going.
But what do you think about Trump?
I think Trump is a perfect example of what I was born into. Ideas and beliefs already in progress. And he's just the result of ideas and beliefs already in progress. Beneath all of that is the same thing beneath me, beneath you. At the core of the essence is a consciously awake, compassionate human being whose true purpose is to benefit the world and them and those that they're around. We are helpers. We're naturally helpers. The moment you see greed, the moment you see lies, manipulations, and strategies, that's just part of the mind doing what it's taught to make itself become true.
Mhm.
And since the mind is not a what is, the mind can conjure up anything for anyone else to do, and it will never feel the pain it's conjured up for other people.
Mhm.
And so here we have a situation where even I could tell myself something. I can be my own Mr. T, will say, and then I can tell myself that life sucks and this should happen. And then I can go try to commit suicide because I believed the same thing as anyone else did it. We make that inner reality. And then what do? We go on the talking head news shows and talking heads talk about talking heads. And they're actually treating all of that as if that person is real,
Mhm.
instead of on the news saying, now listen, this is just a human being that's under the influence of these ideas, thoughts, and beliefs. Be
Mhm.
careful that those ideas, thoughts, and beliefs do not duplicate themselves in your mind because it's a false identity. That's
Mhm.
not happening. And so we actually take what's going on as news.
Right.
And so the world that we live in is supporting the false identity that we aren't.
Right.
And it's no wonder why it's so hard to find our way out of that, because there's nothing in society, at least in the United States, for the most part, that shows how to do that. It's not in the talking points. I don't hear it as conversations in bars. I'm not hearing it in churches. I don't hear it in youth groups. What I'm hearing is harm reduction, and they did this and they did that, but no deeper understanding for the why or the who did it.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And that saddens me, which is why we're doing what we do.
Yeah, I just throw something into the room for us to focus on that's tangible, like a person like that. So we can have a good discussion like this, because it's like, yeah, there's a concept about, yeah, everything, right? There are, and the liberation, of course, is beyond all the concepts. It's the infinite awareness. And so, like, I have fun with these things because it's true, yet these things still are with us. You've got thoughts. You're hooked in like a fish. Everybody is, to a degree, but then we have the ability to unhook more, right? And to deepen into a deeper awareness. So, because I just want everybody, because one of the things that happens in these deep spiritual truths is, like, sometimes people are like, I want to get there now. Okay, let's dismantle all this shit and let's get to the bottom of it. And that's great in a way, but then they keep chasing it. It's like, well, where's the infinite space and the awareness? And I'm not quite sure what that is yet. And it's so not concrete. So, so either they keep chasing or they give up because they don't know what the hell, they don't really know what to put their teeth on, within all that. So how do you help people with that?
Well, that's the gift. The real gift is there's nowhere to go, nothing to do, nothing to change. And all the talk about infinite this and listen, these are great talking points. It's amazing to sell products that maybe this person is an empath and they've got some spiritual gift that I don't have, and it's all BS. It's just crap. Because the real journey, there's nothing to do, nowhere to go, nothing to learn. The real teaching of any spiritual journey is a 4-letter word called stop. And the only teaching that ever needs to be taught is to understand the difference between what is and what isn't. That's it. Because that's where the lostness takes place. Somewhere along the line in our society and in our own lives as a human being, somewhere along the line, we saw that we're supposed to believe beliefs. Somewhere along the line, there's a belief that says beliefs are the same as reality. If I believe it, it's true. And so there's the person, and then there's what I believe about the person, and they're one and the same. And if the mind has its druthers, I'd rather this and druther that, it's going to pick what it thinks over any reality, because that's how it's been taught to see reality. So the only lostness there could be, because remember, we're still here. We're not gone anywhere. There's nowhere to go. This biggest spiritual teaching is to stop and understand that the mind has been taught to see an idea as the same as the thing the idea might represent. And the moment we treat the virtual world the same as the physical world, that's where the lostness takes place. And now we can have the idea of depression, the idea of fear, the idea of separation. We live out the idea and we feel it because we're living out an idea, and the body creates a sensation to match the thoughts. So how do we stop? How do we get out of it? The first thing to realize, you were taught to use your mind in a way that you would never have been taught to use your mind had you been born into a home with spiritually awakened individuals, period. It's just that simple. Now, since that isn't happening, unfortunately, in many ways, then somewhere along the line, we have to understand that our idea of relief in the mind is beer, sex, drugs, TV. That's for relief, because we've been told there's no cure for depression, no cure for this, no cure for that. So in the mind, our I am has been taught there's no cure, there's no solution. So the best you can do is try and get relief. And it sits there constantly suffering, looking for relief, constantly suffering, looking for relief. Why? Because we're treating the belief of what's going on inside the same as what's actually happening out here. And the moment that individual can have the insight that my thought about something isn't something, my thought about a tree isn't a tree. If my thoughts were a tree, can you imagine how big my hat would have to be? If my memories were actually there and they were the same, I think of when I went to go see a Cincinnati Reds baseball game with my biological dad back in the late 60s, early 70s. Can you imagine? I'm going to need 30,000 people in there, a stadium in the whole city, because I remember being there. It would have to literally be in there, but it's not. It's a virtual version of it. It's an it's like. And it's like. Every memory, it's like what it was, but it's not what it was.
Mhm.
Everything. And so our it's like identity is the suffering. Because we want people to love us in its like identity, but they have an it's like identity that isn't capable of actual love any more than mine. And so the solution takes about 2 seconds. It's an insight. An insight. That is the present moment solution that every human being was given to understand the difference between what is and what isn't. Present moment, reality. Then there's the long solution needed to go in and unhook the mind from the self, get the body stopped automatically reacting. But to wake the individual up to who they are, there is no journey. The journey is in the redoing of what's been up there. So when it does come up, we're not on the hook automatically and automatically react to it. And so the actual work of a spiritual journey is unhooking the body from the imitation I am that automatically reacts. It's unhooking the mouth from the automatic I am that just wants to say something all the time.
Mhm.
So that's the journey. And that's where we specialize in, is understanding how the lostness took place, how to bring you back to where you are now, because there's nothing to do, nowhere to go. That's the easy part. And most spiritual journeys are dealing with the false identity, not going beyond it. They say they're going beyond it, but it's still the mind meditating. It's still the mind learning a mantra. And it's still the mind and body doing yoga with the version of yoga that's out there now. And there's no actual beyond it, which is reality. Remember, beyond the it's like isn't more it's like. Beyond the it's like is it is the truth of who we are. So finding truth and ending suffering, easy. And then showing the individual how they created the identity and then doing it. And so the spiritual journey, anyone says it's going to take a year, or you need to do this, or you need to do that, I'm sorry, but it's just more of the crap that's out there.
Mhm.
And I only know one thing. If I say something, I might believe it. And if I say something, someone listening might believe it. And I'll be damned if I'm going to put myself back to sleep, let alone anyone else, with an it's like statement.
Mhm.
So everything I'm pointing to is going to be of the truth of who we are, the amazing gifts that we have. Can you imagine the person sitting there depressed, worried, anxious, all of the pain and suffering, the financial issues, the emotional issues, and yet the other side of them is sitting there going, I have logic, wisdom, rationality, emotional control, laughter, so I pee my pants and giggle. The truth of who I am, right? You never seen a baby go to baby laughing school. So it's built in.
Right, exactly.
You've never seen a baby. You have to go to school to learn how to hold its head up. Our natural ability to learn and grow is built in. I didn't need a name for that. I was learning to grab a rattle before I knew it was Tuesday. So it's that psychological part of us. And unfortunately, wow, I work worldwide, and to get an idea of how the clients in the United States are taught about their mind, different than, say, Sri Lanka, or different than, say, other parts of India, or different, say, than China. All the different aspects. Remember, it's the same mind, but each country's teaching them how they want their people to use their mind. Yet it's the same human mind, same human body. And so it goes right back to that question. Why is it that other people in other countries are doing so well, but in the United States, we're killing each other off with guns? Why? Because there's a set of belief systems in there that says that my phone is like having safety, and the thing on my hip is safety, but it's like safety. The real safety comes from inside of me, not being lost in my own mind. The real safety and security is knowing who I am beyond the who I'm not. That's where real safety and security is, just being who we are. That's when you have a real sense of connectedness. Everything else is just because we're not connected that way. We're lost in a mind stream of thought, on the hook, believing what we believe and protecting what we think we're supposed to protect,
Yeah.
and suffering how we've been taught to suffer. And none of it is real, except we believe it is. That's why we feel it. Remember, it's like an orgasm, and being by yourself, having one. There's nobody there but us and our beliefs.
Yeah.
And if I think about food, my mouth will start watering, and there's nothing there but me and my thoughts, me and my beliefs. And for some reason, we never made the connection. If I can do that with a fantasy, if I can do that thinking about food, if I can get excited going to Disneyland tomorrow, wherever, and I'm not there, but by the thought of it, I am. Then if we can make the connection, it's the same with anxiety and fear and worry and doubt. It's the same function that allows us to create a world, believe it's real, and have a physical experience by either the belief it's real or by the belief it's not real.
So, so yeah, there's almost an infinite amount of playground of fantasy and stuff we can play with, right? Belief systems, and it can
But
have,
it's all what isn't.
it's all what. Okay, so you're saying, so yeah, I wanted to ask you that. So when you say there's what is, and then there's what is not. So illuminate what your perspective is on what that is.
I went to a seminar with a gentleman many, many years ago, and it kept talking about what is God? What is God? And then underneath that is what is reality? And the extrapolation is reality is God. And that's how I was taught in my Sunday school. And that's how I was taught in every, other church I've gone to, is that God is reality. Now, if what is, and it's the only thing that actually could be right now, then right now, I am that which I am right now. I am a now-year-old. My mind wants to say, yeah, but the body's 61 years old. And I picked up this belief about Facebook 2007 or 2008, and I learned about this when I was that old. And so I think my beliefs are as old as I am. And we pretend that. But in reality, we're a now-year-old. Reality, seriously, can't be anything other than that which is right now. Period. Now, if I'm under the influence of a thought and belief now, then that's my reality. But it's not actual reality, it's a thought-based reality.
Right.
So in that moment, since I'm feeling the emotion and thinking it, I want to believe that's reality. But here's the difference. If you look at the TV, the television is what is, what's coming over it is what was, it's what isn't. That's the difference. In my mind right now, what is having an experience in there, but the experience represents what was. And when I start understanding, I can literally have an experience right now, a now-year-old. This is who we are, we're a now-year-old. That's all it could be. So it isn't what is God or what is reality, it's what is reality. This whole time, the answer to the question was just missing an is. Missing isness, presence in that conversation, in that question. What is reality? What is reality? Who are we? Who we are is reality in that moment. And that's why it's easy for us to think a thought is reality, because we can take a look at television and laugh and cry over the program, forgetting that it's on the television, forgetting it's on the screen in our mind.
Right.
And so I commend anyone currently on a journey trying to find a way out of their mind, trying to find a way to solutions, trying to find a way to end suffering. And I'm here to tell you that trying to fix mind is like looking for the monster under the bed.
You can find it if you keep looking hard enough.
Well, the mind will turn it into something.
Right. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, it's easy to know who's here. Open up a book. Oh, this is going to blow everybody away. Open up a book and tell me if there's words on the page. If there's words on the page, then it's your mind. If you just see letters and you don't know what the letters mean, then you're present. You hadn't been taught in English, let's say, to see that word. Because when you look at a book, the mind puts a projection between you and the page. And you're going to look at the book and it's going to say, the orange cat. But the orange cat isn't written on the page. The letters are there, but the words that make the letters, the orange cat, are in our mind. And when you look at the book, you're going to see the orange cat or whatever those words are. And you're going to think there are words on the page. There's got to be words on the page, but it's not on the page. It's our overlay. It's our projection that we put between us and reality. And that's where most people don't understand. Go grab a book, look at it, and you'll see immediately, you'll learn the I am you have in the head.
Jeniji, it says orange, because come on, it's is.
Because that's what's happening in the morning. It looks like the orange cat is on the page. That's what it is. No, it's not. That's what's on the TV screen, but it's not what's on the TV. It's the TV itself.
But and I would say, like, I could deconstruct that further. The letters aren't real, the page isn't real. I could keep that going.
Well, that's the problem. The mind wants to go beyond real. If the page is there, the book's there, then that's what's real. If there's letters on the page, then that's what's real. What I'm saying is learn about the subconscious on the overlay, because when you look at the wall, there's still an overlay there. When you look at your children, there's still an overlay there. And it's just understanding that since our mind's been taught to have it, just get used to seeing it and kind of going through it to see the letters, not just the words. So it's incredible. It really is.
Well, it's incredible because it's so simple and it's so clear, really, that it's mind-blowing to people, because it's just what your mind's doing all the time, just to figure that this is what is, right? So with so many things, you just give a great example, like with saying, well, these letters add up to orange, well, who says? I mean, it could say
this was taught to say so. Yes.
I could I could train a baby to believe that says, oh, and I could compel a newborn to learn to say that word that way, and it would believe it, right? That's what's fascinating about it.
Remember, we were born compassionate, loving human beings. Were we born into a society that matches the truth of who we are? And will I be raised and be maintained that I'm a compassionate, loving, awesome individual that has intelligence and rationality and I can figure stuff out and learn? Or did I become this mind-made me version that I think this and I think that, and I start chipping away at who I am? And then pretty soon I'm the it's like me, but not the real me. And people keep telling me, wow, what's happened to you? You've changed. And you just don't know how to get back there. None of us are taught how to get back there. And I'm here to tell you, there's a way back home in some of it. And it's pretty simple, because the complexity is how the mind was taught to look at it, not how it really is. Remember, it's like the spiritual journey is it's hard. I'm going to have to eat scones and dress in white and burn sage. No, that's just the crap in the head. It's going to challenge. I'm going to be different. I'm not going to. No, it's all the enforcer belief systems that we've had put in our mind to keep the other belief systems in check, to keep us from going beyond it. If in our mind we've been taught that a spiritual journey is bad, then our false identity will protect itself from seeing beyond the false identity. It's incredible how that which we're not can convince us to protect that which we're not, because we think we are. It's incredible how that happens. It's just incredible. Because, I mean, think about it. The human mind, everyone listening, hear this, play this over and over again. The human mind is the only thing I have ever found capable of being taught to tell itself it's broken. And once the human mind is taught and told to tell itself it's broken, it can then be taught to tell itself that there's no cure, no solution. And so we might live an entire life suffering from something with the belief that we're reflecting back to ourselves and the enforcer belief system that there's nothing I can do about it. And so what was this happy, healthy human being gets lost in the I am in the mind. And that's where I lost my mom. That's where I got lost. That's where all of us got lost. Still here, but we're not consciously here. So where did our conscious awareness go? We literally became unaware of our awareness. We became unaware of our awareness. That's incredible to happen to a human being. But it's part of how the mind works. When the mind's in charge of the identity, then we can be no longer aware of our awareness. Why? Because the mind's going to sit there and go, don't pay attention to the glasses anymore. Forget that you're wearing them. Don't pay attention to the shirt on your shoulders. You forget about that sensation. It becomes unconscious. You forget about it. Don't use your logic, wisdom, rationality, emotional control. That's going to become unconscious to you too. Right? Just like the pressure of the shirt on the shoulders. I bet people are wearing socks and shoes. They are not paying attention to the sensation until I brought it back to awareness. It's the same thing with who we really are. It's bringing back to awareness the firstborn and subsiding the attachment to the belief that we are that which is in our mind. And it is incredible to watch someone wake up, because all of a sudden it's like going to this box store and you're seeing all the opportunities that you could have, but you've been living in your house only getting what's out of the refrigerator, thinking that's all that's available to you because that's all your mind taught you to buy.
Do you want to meditate and make money? Let it be simple. Let it be easy. Let it be fun. Go to yoursacredpurpose.com and get your free meditate, make money meditation today.
And so people finally get the life they want to have instead of the one their mind was taught to give them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it could be very disorienting for people to consider going deeper down, this rabbit hole, right? Like, wait a minute.
Well, that's the illusion again. There's no depth.
Yeah,
There's
well,
nothing
okay,
there.
but people, all the same,
The
people
mind's going to
have
talk.
anxiety and concerns, regardless of what's creating it. People have anxieties and concerns about going further down the rabbit hole, because if I don't know who I am, the game over. Like, what am I doing in my life? I'm not my career role. I'm not this. I'm not that. I'm not anything. And it's like an annihilation of my identity means I'm nothing, and therefore that's not good. Like that's what the mind tells people. So how do you help people with that aspect of it?
Well, that's what the mind's been taught to tell themselves. Remember, what you described is the second half of people can then not only be convinced to tell themselves they're broken, but then they can be told to convince themselves that there's no solution, no cure. So what you're talking about are all the enforcer belief systems that the mind is given, the so-called logical reasons that the mind is given to justify the suffering, to justify it's going to take time, to justify, well, man, that might work for him, but it won't work for me because, and it's just more of the same. And the individuals that are going through that, listen, I went through that for 40 years. Suicide, depression, I've lost my family, business. I know what that's like, and I am not discounting suffering. I'm not discounting the pain and the hell that goes through by living that way. What I am discounting is the fact that it's not you. What I am discounting and saying is that it was never me either. And so somewhere inside, deep inside, if we want to use the word deep, there's a part of us that we know this is not who we are. And I don't care the person suffering to the point of almost suicide, divorce, addiction, depression. We can go into down the rabbit hole of such dark, deep fears and emotions, even just a little stressors that someone might be feeling. It's the same thing. It's I'm trying to solve a present moment problem with an identity that doesn't have functions to solve anything with. All I'm doing is protecting through the beliefs that I've been taught, something that's keeping me from being who I really am. And that feeling inside, that tug, we mistake sometimes for sex or drugs or something else because we're just looking for relief. But that real tug, the real relief, is coming back to a state of presence of who we really are and undoing what's been playing in the mind. And until we can undo it, at least see that it's just stuff playing around. It's a radio that I'm not listening to anymore. It doesn't hold the weight. Think of the journey almost like the 9-year-old or 8-year-old who for the first 7 or 8 years believed Santa was real. And then something happens, an insight, an epiphany. They see actual reality, what is, beyond the what isn't. Now, I bet there was times in which that 8 or 9-year-old still wished at Christmas time they still believed in Santa, because for some reason in my house, we didn't get many gifts, but all the good stuff came from Santa. So all of a sudden now I'm just getting gifts from mom and dad, when in my mind, I know I've been conditioned for 8 years that all the good stuff comes from Santa, but Santa is not real. And so now guess what? That little child, 7 or 8, who might have a little brother or sister like I did, knows Santa's not real, but has to keep playing it out. Why? Because we don't want the other child to get past the illusion, right? And so this is the same thing happening in the homes on depression and anxiety. Unfortunately, on those, no one's seen past it like Santa. And I bet if that 8 or 9-year-old who saw past Santa went to some other 5 or 6-year-old and said, Santa's not real, just like you said, on other people are going to say, it can't be that easy, can't be. Well, that 5-year-old's can look at the 8-year-old and scream at the 8-year-old and say, but Santa is real. No different than the mind is going to say right now that these other things are real too. Just because someone ate the cookies doesn't mean it was Santa. And just because I'm feeling something doesn't mean it's true in reality. It's just true in my mind. And the moment I can cross that bridge, the immediateness of needing to answer a solution now versus the long term of what it's going to take to then kind of retrain the mind, there's something I can do right now. We are built in for present moment solutions. Why? Because we're a human being, present moment man. We're designed for immediate solutions because we are aware, we are consciously aware human beings. There is no need for time to see past the mind. There might be time needed, like baking a cake, to rewire the brain, but time's not needed for a present moment solution. And think of present moment solutions like snacks. And the long-term retraining is like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. When we're hungry now, so we go get a snack. Well, it's a present moment solution. We have the same thing in the mind, on the same thing within us to see past the suffering of the mind. Have a snack to get past hunger right now. Utilize the truth of who you are to get past the suffering of the mind right now. While dinner's being made, while we're redoing the mind, and so those immediate pop-ups can be retrained. And it doesn't take long, about the same time as remembering a new phone number. The mind wants to think it's more than that, but it's exactly the same. So right. Present moment solutions, future-based solutions, virtual solutions, because remember, our mind is virtual and the suffering is virtual turned into physical. And so you can't use a physical solution to solve a virtual problem. And that's why most of the solutions of people taking this or doing this outside of them putting it in isn't going to solve the virtual problem, because it's not a physical problem. It's also an inner problem. So how can I use an external to solve an inner? How can I use something physical to solve a virtual? And these are all things that the mind has been taught are solutions, which is why all the suffering has never been seen past. We're given its like solutions that never solve the its like problem. And we continue suffering.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want someone to go, but what I'm thinking or feeling is real. The experience is real.
Yeah.
But the person experiencing it, who's that? Right. And so that's the gift. And the naysayers, I am a naysayer. That's why it took 17 years for me to release this. We're just releasing this to the public. We've been teaching this for 17 years, but I had to have long-term effects. I had to make sure I was still stable 17 years later. My business partner that came on board as a client 12 years ago, he's still stable. Clients still stable. Why? Because they will back up to the truth of who they are. Yeah, it's incredible. I want to yell through the rooftops. We found a solution to a problem that was never there.
Right.
And you understand that. The person listening, but it is a problem for me now. I know.
Yes.
I know. God, do I know?
Yeah. Do we all know? I mean, even to this day, we know, right? Even if we're more awake or whatever, but it's still, we have a sense of being more awake or being aware of that. But we still have moments, right? We have emotions, they come up, and it's like, okay, you move through that typically a little bit with more grace, as you work through what you're talking about, and you got your own way of doing it. That's maybe, but any of us have been undoing and waking up more, are able to be observant of those things happening and be like, part of me always just, but my ways with that is just like, oh, that's interesting, like whatever's coming up, the emotion, the beliefs or whatever. And I might overindulge myself though with it a little bit. I'm like, oh, this is like entertainment, right? I think that gets back to what you're saying, like it's like kind of numbing yourself, right? So that was helpful to me, like, oh, maybe I'm still numbing myself, maybe I geez, everybody else is doing it, maybe I'll numb myself some too. Everybody else is shooting themselves in the head. Why don't I? Right?
Well, but what's suicide? What's isolating at home? What's fear? Remember, there's no monster under the bed. The act of looking, the parent looking, tells the child that there are monsters. Otherwise, why would dad look or mom look? Doesn't matter what the person says. The child's going to pick up on the cue that someone's looking. And if someone's looking, that means that it could come back. Hence, now the creation of anxiety about something that might return that was never there. Now you understand the creation of the irrational mind. And the irrational mind says, I don't need actual evidence. I just need compelling evidence. Remember, the mind uses its like, not it is. Dad looking for the monster is my proof that monsters exist. To the it's like world. To the it is world, show me a monster.
Right.
And that's the gift, because I can scare myself in my mind. I mean, think of the first caveman. They walked outside, just right. They got up, they did whatever cavemen do, and maybe they put on a pot of coffee. I don't know. I've been watching Fred Flintstone too much, probably. And they go outside and they stretch, and there's a saber-toothed tiger right there, and the caveman sees it. Now, cavemen understand saber-toothed tigers love eating them for lunch. And so the caveman runs back inside. There's a saber-toothed tiger. There's a saber-toothed tiger. But something happened this time. Everyone's looking around for the tiger, but nobody sees it except the person running back. Because somewhere along the line, imagination came online. No different than our ability to taste. Right? Whatever that was, eons, whatever that is, but the imagination came online. And somebody's running in, there's a tiger, and everyone else is looking for the tiger, but there's nothing there. Remember, it's like tiger, the real tiger is still outside. And people inside gathered around eating their grog and their whatever it is, the caveman, somebody has the idea, well, if he can have a tiger inside him, so can I. Why? Because their ability to imagine came online as well. And pretty soon you have a whole cave or a whole society believing.
Yeah, look out for that saber-toothed tiger. We all know that. And sometimes there may be something to that, but often there's not. So
Well, you mentioned this, and I don't get into politics, but I'll use it as an example. You named an individual, last name starts with a T. The fears that's being spewed out are thought monsters. They're not really there. Thought fears, thought worries. The monsters under the bed being taken as real. And people are being hurt because of that. An entire country had been taken over by that. It is incredible the amount of people in our society in the United States that live as in its like world, which means that once they're not attached to actual reality, almost anyone can come in and rile up whatever's in there to their benefit. And this is where it starts getting really crazy. So, and that's why I wouldn't have seen this had I not worked in different countries to, pardon me, to see that, to see the difference. It was just incredible, just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, we're under a lot of so-called mind control is what they call it, right? So but anyway, we could go on for hours. We're going to need to go ahead and have you share how people can learn more, because there is so much more. So where can people learn more and engage with you further, Jeniji?
Well, I'm just going to bring you right to the solution. We talked a lot about it, but the solution actually takes less time than we talked about. I've got this amazing event called Helper Camp. We are all helpers. Whatever we learn about to help ourselves, we can then learn to help someone else with. So we're all naturally helpers. And so those individuals, the coaches and the caretakers and the therapists, everyone out there who's trying to understand how to be a caretaker or a helper for someone else really needs to have their own inner experience. So then the authentic helper shows up. And who's the authentic helper? You see it every time there's a tornado, a flood. The real human beings come out. And it's not about politics. It's not about beliefs. It's the truth of who we are. And then the problem subsides and we come back to being up here again. And so at Helper Camp, kind of help you understand how to subside that part of your clients so you can really work with them, subside that part of your child or whoever that is, a staff member or a loved one. So then you can finally subside that so they can see the truth of who they are and they can witness the words on the page that aren't there except by the belief that they are. And so Helper Camp is an amazing experience. It's 5 days. I teach it live and it's actually a lot of fun. It's like camp, summer camp for humans.
Awesome. Sounds wonderful. Very cool, very liberating. And like I said, you make things fun. I mean, it gets, because it does have the vibe of getting serious, but then we have to bring in the levity, I feel anyway. It's so helpful. It really helps grease the skids or whatever you want to say. So, so I appreciate that. We'll put a link below for you to check out Helper Camp, the 5-day live event online. And that's the beauty, right? It's not like you saying, all right, it's going to be $100,000. You're going to have to meet me at the North Pole exactly 12 p.m. or whatever.
Come as you are.
And if you can't get there, then you're not ready. You know, it's like, nope, no, it's not that crazy like that. No,
No.
You get to just come.
Just come.
Yes. Awesome. So wonderful. And what I'd like to do now is just to utilize just my download faculty that, I'm not special. I teach other people to do these things too, to just get awake and aware. And to me, everything's about awakening. So I would teach people how to tune in. I'm just teaching them to wake up really. But okay, so yeah, I'd like to give you maybe a couple of downloads of whatever's coming through to share with you today. But you ready to receive, Jeniji?
Yeah, so if they go to Helping Happy Helpers,
Mhm,
there's a ton of free stuff, including
mhm,
everything I've talked about here today. All
mhm.
free downloads. There's some videos. I
Oh
am
no,
giving,
right. Totally do that. We're gonna put
yeah,
the link in. What I was saying is that I'm going to be tuning in. It's just a segment of my tuning in into the guests and share with you. So you're ready to receive?
see, my
Right,
Frank went automatically, and
right.
that's how it
The
is, right? That's
downloads, it
how it
must be
is.
with my gifts and everything.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
That's fun. Okay, cool.
Point proven. It's
Point through
exactly
it.
how it
See?
is. It's exactly.
Exactly.
I'm human too, but I
Right.
can laugh about it instead of going, man, I just messed up again. Oh my, no,
Right.
it's just how
Oh,
it is.
still not there. Oh my God.
It's just how it is.
That's so funny. Okay, all right, let's see what those downloads there are. So if you'll just give me a moment just to relax and tune in. There's like this old energy they're showing me of like a sky maybe from the 20s or something, almost like a Teddy Roosevelt, really. Almost like that kind of energy, like, well, this is the way it is, and here you go. And so they're showing me that first. Let me see what they're trying to, why they're showing me. I'm not certain yet. Okay. Hmm. Well, I just think it's something where you have a good laugh at it, first of all, because you're looking through it and you're like, what? This is the way it is. Come on. So first of all, I get that kind of vibe. You know, again, I guess it might be illusion. Like, I don't know what your belief system is on this either, or the BS system. But anyway, I don't care if people believe it or not. It could be past life energy where you were either that person or in that environment. I'm soft treading with you because I don't know your perspective. But anyway, there's something around that where um, there's an awareness in this individual, the way it's presenting to me, that even though it's, well, things are, but he doesn't really believe it. So he's saying all these things, but he doesn't really believe it. But it's kind of like, yeah, I'm abusing myself. Oh, things are this way or that way. And so I'm just noticing like this um, part that can be really clear and then really amused by the beliefs. Like, so that's what I'm noticing. So I guess is why it's being shown, who knows, but um could be just one idea, and one kind of fun thought is could be is just, guys, we are all playing characters, Jeniji included, all of us, and just have fun with it. It's okay. It's okay to be human and to have a character and a personality. So we're going to get into another download. Then we get, yeah, I'll have you respond to that in a moment. Okay, let's see what else comes through. So yeah, it's really genuine, like some people will be like, I just want to help the world, and they might have a hidden agenda. They might be like, wait till I get you to the back alley and you're gonna get a knife in the back or some crazy thing. But like with Jeniji, it's really genuine when because he didn't say it so clearly here, but like when he's told me, he's like, I just here to just give the gift, and so I see that in your energy. It's just showing I just want to give this gift to the world. And that's how you guys too, with the paranoia and all this stuff that's going on these days for all of us at moments. We really need to just tune in and really see what the truth is. Like, so I see that truth in Jeniji. Like, I see this truth, and it's the same thing. Like recently, my programming told me, we're having somebody come look at the air conditioning units here for $49. They're gonna put it in the free. I'm like, yeah, they're gonna tell you everything's shit and it all needs to be replaced. That's where my mind went. I'm like, okay, let me tune in though. That may not be true. When I tune in, I'm like, no, this is a really good guy, and he's really sincere and everything. then he came and he worked on it. And it's exactly what my wife said. He didn't try to sell me anything. He told me everything's working good. Hang on to these units. They're way better than the new units. And he did a great job and everything. And so, often it's just we have to learn to tune in and to really understand that what the real realities are. There are, maybe sort of dangers in a way in the world, but also at the same time, a lot of times it isn't what we think. And then I love what you shared during the show, Jeniji. It was just, either way, bring love, bring compassion to it. See, I just posted today, I shared all kinds of different things, but I said the greatest justice comes from the heart or from love or something like that. I mean, I read justice. We have to have justice, damn it! And the greatest justice comes from the heart, guys. I mean, if it's not from there, then that's not true. If you want to talk about this justice thing, it ain't gonna be true justice in my view, anyway. So, so anyway, so I interspersed some talking points along with some downloads about Jeniji here. So, anyway, Jeniji, any reflections or thoughts about what's coming through? Yeah.
Well, a couple of things. I want to reflect on the fact that the idea of downloads, my mind took as literal,
Mm-hmm.
and because I'm in the space that when someone starts talking downloads, it's because of it's a gift for someone for the audience. So the idea of downloads during the show for the individual, I had no content on. My mind had no understanding on. And so I have content now to know what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how we relate based on that content.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we've been taught to relate, based on the content we have in our mind, not the truth of who we are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? That's where the real share is.
Mm-hmm.
And the personality, I think the real key here is if we don't know who we really are, we think that we need to laugh. We think that we need to make something funny. We think we need to do these things because it's not natural to us of it just happening. And again, that's of the mind. And so it's easy for us to think that we're beyond mind while we're using the mind to say we're beyond mind.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're really doing is we're pointing to the fact that this my persona, is it the one that naturally reflects the truth of who we are? Or is my personality reflect the me that I was taught to be in the head?
Mm-hmm.
And so when people start talking about personas and personalities, it really depends on who's talking. Is the true self, and the conversation is quite different, versus the I am this, I am that, you are that, and you are that. The conversation is quite different in how it's put. And so I guess it really depends. Do I need a false persona? Do I need a false personality? Do I need, well, I think we do until we know who we really are. And if that false persona or personality has suffering in it, then it's definitely a sign it's not who we are. It's not in our nature to suffer. So I'll leave with this, all of it. It's easy for a tree to be a tree, but it's hell for a tree to act like a bush. So if there's suffering, then we're not being who we really are. We've taken on some other point, some other idea that we're adding to it. It's the overlay. So if life's hard, then we're a tree trying to be a bush. But the minute we're a tree, laughter just happens. Connections just happen. Finding your mate and love, and it just happens.
Yeah.
It's not a strategy or something mechanical in the mind going because. So yeah, be more tree.
Okay, cool. All right, Jeniji, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing. I'm grateful to have had you as a guest today. Really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And for our listeners, as I always say, keep on tuning in. We'll keep on rocking here at Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Till next time, everyone. Goodbye for now. The Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Wednesday and Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.